when we forge, we have to pay attention to the color of the metal. So bright orange in bright light could be white hot, which is forge welding temperature, in low light. So we want to minimize the amount of light we got. So we've got our anvil, and this quench bucket is not for the knife. We never, ever, ever take the knife, hammer on it, and then stick it in the water. That will cause a whole lot of fracturing and could just make it explode into tiny little shards when you do stick it in there. Material on the anvil, and quench your tongs so that you can still hold on to them. That's the only purpose for that bucket. This forge, we have to leave the tongs attached, and we'll just stick it in there like that. So I've taken a whole lot of the hard work away from these pieces by cutting the tip at a bias. One of the hardest things to do is to take a rectangular piece and hammer that down to where it's like that without having fish lips here. In the next level course, we'll do that and we'll show you how to address that. But here, what we're going to do is we're just going to take our hammer and strike here to lower that angle. Now, if you want a knife that has a short clip, just hammer it back to about here. If you want a knife that has a long clip, hammer it way back there. The longer you make this, the longer your blade will be. This was made from this parent stock, and you can see it's 1.5 inches longer. You can swing as big a hammer as you want, but 80% of all I do is done with this very hammer. When you hold the hammer, you don't want to do this, nor do you want to get a death grip on it like that. And you really don't want to be up here like this. A hammer has a handle for a reason, and that is leverage. You have no mechanical advantage here. You may as well be holding it like this and hammering it like a caveman. So you hold it here, thumb on that side, finger on that side, and that is all that holds the hammer. The fingers here guide. That's all they do is guide. You point your elbow at the target and you swing down. So you will always want to move your material and strike in the same spot. Now, you will see me put it here, slide it sideways, but this is generally the target. You can see that it's a well-worn area. Nice and hot, we bring it over here. Make sure that our material is flat on the surface, otherwise it's a wasted blow. No more than 3 strikes at a time before you lay it sideways. And the reason we do that is because you don't want to create fish lips on the edge of your blade. That is cold enough that we want to get it hot again. I'm striking on the outer edges because the outer edges is what mushrooms when you're striking here. And once you get the outer edges smashed back in, then you can equal out the entire area. And then I'm just going to straighten that a little bit by going right there.
Okay. So tell me again, what do you do? What do you put on here?
Well, first we reshape the handle and make it rectangular so that while you're swinging it, you can tell how that hammer is going to hit. Is it going to hit like this, or however? It also kind of forces you to hold it the way you're supposed to, which is right here between those fingers right there. And then we char it because charcoal is a antiseptic, and then we cover it with beeswax, which is an antiseptic, so that if you get blisters, they don't get infected as easily. So,
Right on.
yeah. I like the feel of that. All right, your piece is ready. I'm gonna hold the tongs, you strike it right there. Keep going. All right, stop. Now hammer flat. All right.
I missed.
That's okay. I won't make you kiss the anvil. Grab my pointer here.
I want to keep it flat. Huh?
Yep, and strike right there. All right, let me clean that up for you a little bit before we lose the heat.
Every time.
There we go. Got a super high spot there. And then we want to take that bend out of it. There we go. Now bring this like that. Bring it back that way again. All right, go flat. Okay, when you're striking straight down. You need to tilt the hammer,
Okay.
hold it right, like this, and just tilt the hammer. You're still coming straight down. Your body mechanics are still the same. You've just tilted the hammer so that the face strikes it differently.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna get it hot again.
I missed. That's good for the ears.
Yes, it is.
That's hard to do.
Yeah. All right, flatten it. All right, this time I'm gonna take it out to the point for you. Do you want a long clip or a short clip?
Short clip.
Okay.
He makes it look so easy.
Forming the handle, we're going to place the anvil, and I'm drawing the anvil after the fact, I'm sorry. We're going to place the material on the anvil, actually like this, and we're going to do that at 4 1/2 to 5 inches from the butt. Strike the hammer on a half on, half off blow. That means the hammer, half of the hammer over the anvil and half of the hammer off. I'm also going to be doing it at a bias like this so that we really get in there, and I'm using the roundest part of my anvil to make the plunge. Go. Just make a little nub there. This is going to be the cutting edge. This is going to be the back of the blade. Because as we hammer, your material wants to climb up.
Yes.
And you'll get what's known as the banana,
Yep.
which is great if you're making a sham shear, but horrible if you're wanting to make something that is straight.
Okay.
I rotate it to the high spot, strike there. I get a new high spot. This is for efficiency. The smaller the surface area that you're trying to move, the easier it is to move. Your face pretty much just hits flat and causes the metal to move equally out away from where your hammer struck. So if you want to move your metal a particular direction, you use a fuller. So I would take this and hammer the material with this, getting it all sorts of messed up. It's ugly, it's gross. Then you flip over the hammer to the flat, and that forces the material to move that way. Likewise, if I wanted to go longer, I would strike and make it all yucky that way, and then hammer flat, and it would cause it to go that way. So I'm using the large round for my fuller. This one's, I guess they're both about the same. I think I'll use this one because we've got a lot of work to do today, and I want to be able to use my arm afterwards. So what we're doing is we're making the back of the knife handle wider than the front, so that we've got a really, really good purchase on the handle when we are holding onto the knife. This is a step I thought that I would remove from this class. Any knife handle, you want it to be wider at the back than it is at the front. And the reason for that is so when you're using it, chopping or whatever you're doing, when you're drawing it from your scabbard, it's not going to be coming out of your hand as you're using it. Now you'll see that it gives it a distal taper, so it tapers as we go that way, and it also grew that wider. I'm going to flatten out this taper a little bit more. There. Okay.
Notch.
Yeah.
And then a hammer on that, right?
Yes.
Gotta hit it.
Yes, you have to hit it. There you go, that's enough. Get it hot again. Right here, you're going to, can't do it in slow-mo. Right like that. So you're swinging at about a 45. Yeah. So bend your body. And it's okay if you come straight back to your nose. Some people, it helps them take aim. Just don't come back too far. We're losing heat. I'm just going to straighten it out.
Yep.
All right. So already we've made a knife-like object. All we've done is refine our points and get our handle started. This step, we're going to start drawing out the blade, and by doing that, it's going to bring this tip up. It's also going to bring the spine up, but to minimize the banana effect, we're going to start all of our hammer blows right here in the center of the knife. From there, we're going to work our way down with our hammer blows, and then we're going to, that's with the fuller, And then we're going to flip the hammer over to the flat side and draw it all out. I started off in the center here, and then I worked my way down, and I gave this area here more strikes than I gave up there. Next time I'm going to heat it up. I'm going to do the same thing to this side, and then we're going to use Thor here to spread it out. From here to here, the middle there, and I'm hammering gradually coming back this way. I need to draw this area here out. It'll probably only take 1 or 2 blows to do so, but I definitely need to do that. I'm not real pleased with where the tip has ended up. It hasn't bananaed as much as I wanted it to. Of course, I could stand to hammer that a little bit more too. But, so this time around, after I heat it, I've got a little sway in the back here, which I think I kind of like that. Remember, this is art. So I will address that area there. I'll address this here. And then if I still don't like how much it curves up, I'll show you how to take care of that. So what I want to do is I want to bring this tip up here. And to do that, I'm just going to put it on the anvil upside down. So the spine here is going to be on the anvil. And I'm going to strike the tip from here out to the tip to bring that tip up to at least center line, if not a little bit higher, so that when we get done, we've got a curved tip there and a straight tip there. Smash it down. I see I'm a little bit off center here. Okay, I'm gonna have to get that hotter to do that. So normalizing, we heat it up to critical temperature, which for the steel that we're using is just a bit above 1500 degrees. So that when we heat treat, it doesn't twist or whatever, doesn't warp, because all of the molecules will already be set up where they want to be set up when we quench it. And it also puts it in a state in which your drill bit can drill through it. We're going to be drilling 3 holes, and I'm going to be grinding the blades, kind of. And then we'll heat treat, which is heating them up to 1500 degrees and then quenching them in Parks 50 oil. And then we'll put it in the toaster oven at 400 degrees for an hour, and that will temper it down to where it's a useful edge. Fresh out of the heat treating oven, it'll be Rockwell around 65 and about as brittle as glass. After we get it out of the toaster oven, it'll be Rockwell somewhere between 58 and 60, and it'll be durable. All right, so what I just did over there is I set up our primary bevel. This isn't the cutting bevel, but this is the angle that allows it to slice through something or chop something. And this is going to be a general purpose knife, so it's not going to be super thin and shallow angle like a chef knife, and it's also not going to be really wide like an axe. But you'll be able to chop some things with it. You'll definitely be able to do almost any cutting task with it at the angle that we're setting this. And then we set part of the profile of the blade. We're leaving the back of this in the as forged condition just because it looks cool. And then we're getting ready to figure out how we're going to shape the handle. To do that, I want you to wrap your hand around the knife in a way that you would be using it to chop or cut things, or if you're going to be using this as a skinning knife like this. I want you to do that in all three of those positions. Take the pencil and make a mark in between this finger and your ring finger. See if we can get this pencil in here. Now I'm going to go to the grinder. I'm going to grind a little radius right here. Oh yeah, let's also find out where your pinky ends, because we want some extending, but we don't want that much extending. We're going to put the high point right there in the center of all that lead. And then right here is where your pinky was, and I'm going to start my radius back here, just about 1/4 of an inch back from your pinky. Then we're going to make a nice little radius here so it looks really cool and feels good. When we forged this, we forged a taper, a distal taper from the ricasso area to the butt of the handle, and a distal taper from the ricasso area to the tip. We're not going to mess with this area because we want to keep the as forged condition, but this is all going to be hidden. So what we want to do is we want to clean that up so that the handle material will sit flat on it, and we also want to clean it up so that we can drill some lightning holes so that even after having a handle on, the front is the heavy part, so that anytime you go to chop something, you'll actually have the weight forward. We got our calipers here. We want to measure the width right up here, which is where our first hole will be. We'll just put it like halfway between where our finger would be. So here's the vertical line for that. Our horizontal line, we'll measure this. It's 725 thousandths. Divide that by 2. So we'll bring it down to 300. Take it up to 62. Lock that in. Don't do this with an expensive pair of sterrets. Mine are Grizzly brand. The next pin we want is going to be right in line with the high spot. So scratch our vertical in there. Measure, and we're at 940. 470 thousandths. That's close enough. And then down here, about, yeah, we're gonna just use that. And we're at 1 inch, 230. When we drill our hole, we want to drill our hole slightly below that center mark, because at the center mark, when we shape the handle, it will look, just optical illusion, it will look like that pin is way closer to the top than it is to the bottom. So we take it just slightly lower than center, like half a drill bit width, which we're using a number 30 drill bit, which is 1/8 of an inch. So that's where we will strike our center punch. And we're just deburring the holes. So now, with these lightning holes, even after we put the handle on, it's going to be weight forward, which is good for when you need to chop something. 4 different pieces of curly maple, and then we've got a quilted bird's eye maple that's been, the way it's been explained to me, caramelized, which basically means they put it in an oven and it gives it this rich brown look. When this stuff is finished and polished, it looks like that. This is 2 pieces that was cut down the center. They're all matched, so the grain is, it matches. And when you're looking at a custom knife to purchase or looking at making a custom knife, the collectors like to see that the grain is matched, that it's not from 2 different pieces of wood or whatever. So something I like to do that makes my life easier is I get the grain lined up to where, you know, they're a matching pair. Then I open them up and I put an arrow showing the orientation. So in this case, that's forward and this is up. So as we mount the knife on there, that arrow is facing up, and then we'll switch it over here, and that arrow is facing up, so that when we put them together, the arrows being the way the arrows are, our grain is still lined up. And we put some CA glue, good super glue on there. Oh, and a piece of tape. The tape makes it to where we're not tearing out wood when we peel the super glue off. It also helps if you have super glue accelerator, which I don't have now. When I worked in aviation, I had it.
All right.
So we'll go over to the drill press and we'll drill our pinholes into our wood, and then we'll take the tape off, match the 2 pieces of wood, and back drill from the other side into this piece. All the holes will still be in the same spot. You don't want to just muscle the drill bit through, because you'll get an uneven hole and you'll damage the wood. Make sure our arrows are going the same way. Close that up, get everything evened up, and then carefully drill that hole. All right, so now that we've got those holes drilled, pull this off, flip that back to front because it won't work any other way. So now we take our pencil and we draw the outline of the handle. Now we can mate these up to the way they're supposed to be, looking at the arrows. Put that in there. I like to have my handle material stop right around this area here. So I just draw a line right there, and that's where it ends. Now we'll take this over to the brand new acquired bandsaw and we'll cut this out mostly. And then soon our heat treating oven will be up to temperature. It's only got about 400 more degrees to go. If you've never pre-cut something before, meaning drawn the line out and then cut around the line, you always want to stay on the outside of the line. Because if you don't, you know, it's okay to be too big, but it's never okay to be too small. So make sure that our height here is okay. See if we got power. Now we're going to take it over to the grinder and grind the wood flush with the handle. And now that our heat treating oven is up to temperature, we'll grind that. Then we'll put the knife in the heat treating oven. And then Troy will be working on the handle. All right, so what you get to do, Troy, is take this sandpaper, hold it like that. This is a cork backing. And with the 220 grit, you'll go this direction until we've got all the scratches out from the grinder. And then you'll switch to the 320 grit and go horizontal, or 90 degrees to what you had, and then we'll use some 400 grit to go back with the grain for the finishing touch. There you are. What we're doing is we've already done the normalizing, which got all the grain structure the same size, the same alignment and everything. So now all we're doing is taking all that's already been set up molecularly, and we're going to harden it. As soon as we harden it, we put it in the tempering oven, also to keep it from cracking. So this may get smoky. If you just put the material in and you don't agitate it like this, it will not get hard, because it's so hot that it creates a vapor layer around the material. Bring it out, make sure we're still straight. We are. And then take our file and see if we're hard. That is hard. The file skates off it like it's glass. Gonna keep agitating it, trying to bring it closer to a temperature that we can hold on to. Now there's all sorts of knife making lore that says when you heat treat, you have to be pointing due north to align the structure. It has to be quenched in the urine of a young tribes member that hasn't reached reproductive age. All sorts of crazy things. And none of it is actually real. The only thing that's real is that you have to bring it up to a particular temperature. You have to maintain it at that temperature long enough for everything to get into solution. And then you need to quench it a particular speed for which to set up the austenite, the martensite, perlite, and cementite the way that you want it to. In this condition, if I were to drop this, it would shatter like glass, making the person behind the camera cry because he's got a lot of work invested into this. So now we're going to put it in the toaster oven at 400 degrees for an hour. and then we'll be able to get back to work on it. That's at 450. Bake. All right. So the steel we're using is 1084, and this is a printout that I got from Kevin Cashin. Go to his webpage, and it gives you a great place to start. And since we're not trying to tailor this knife to any specific thing, we're just going to use the generalized average of data that he's compiled. So for hardening to austinize, we're looking at 1500 degrees, and it's generally accepted that you soak it for 10 minutes. Then tempering as quenched. So when it gets out of the hardening, it is approximately 65 HRC. So that's Rockwell hardness. 65 is really, really stinking hard. If you get it sharp, you'll have an edge that'll stay sharp for a long time. This is a little too hard even for chef's knives, and they don't take a whole lot of abuse. So we want to temper it, which means not necessarily make it soft, but make it more resilient and less prone to chipping or breaking in half. So to temper it, we use this chart that he came up with. We want it tempered to right around 60 to 61 Rockwell. I find that to be a good hardness with regards to resharpening, and with regards to edge retention, and with regards to general toughness. So I'm actually going to go over there and turn down the temperature because it's presently at 450. I think the last thing I tempered was 52-100. So anyways, we're going to bring the hardness down to between 60 and 61, and that will make an outrageously durable edge and make it easy to sharpen as well. Kind of an important thing here, when we address the belt, meaning bring our work up to the belt, we don't want to try to go ahead and be the angle that we're going to be grinding. We want to bring it in, let the blade touch, and then rock it down to where that flat is. Because if we come up there and we're trying to be flat, we're never going to be flat. So we'll gouge something, or we'll up here, or we'll gouge something down here, and we'll never get the same plane on the grinder. So we bring it up, just gently touch the edge, and rock it down until it feels like the flat is flat against the platen. The way it's designed allows you to, well, number one, it makes the belt last a long time, and it allows it to go to super duper fine grits. So you can, using a belt with these 3M Trizac abrasives, you can actually get down to a 2000 grit. I don't have them down to 2000 grit. I don't finish knives at 2000 grit. But if I ever did, I'd be able to do that. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to hand sand it. That just means that you remove scratches that are a lot thicker. So, same principle with this. When you address coming right back over there. When you address the grinder platen, which that's what this flat hard thing is, you'll want to start off with your blade like this and then rotate in, go this way, then come this way, go this way, and come this way, and then take a look at it. Go ahead and feel what that feels like without the thing going round and round really fast.
If it gets hot.
Turn around and quench it, and what I would do is I would take a step back and then turn around and quench it so that you don't get your jacket stuck in there and rip your arm off.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's good.
I did tell you your first day that everything in the shop wants to kill you, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. It's true.
Hold it kind of loosely. Take a quick look, see how you're doing. Okay, you're creating a whole new bevel.
Oh.
Yeah, matter of fact, you've sharpened it right there. So we're going to take the sharpness off.
Am I not holding it flat enough? Or what?
You're not holding it loose enough.
Oh.
You're very rigid. But this is okay, because when we sharpen it, we're going to create that same bevel like what you got there. So. Knock that sharpness off. Do you see how gentle I'm holding it? When you start manhandling it, that's when you start changing angles. All right, this side is good, so do this side. Be gentle. I know that's your left hand, so all right, I'll fix that.
Let's see. So we can see it.
So now we get to put a handle on it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut some pins. I've got a pair of dikes with some silicone glued in there so that when you do that, your pin doesn't go flying across the room. It up. So you put your piece of brass in there in your drill, then you squeeze the trigger and touch it to your abrasive, and it gives it a nice little pointy tip so that it makes it easier to get it through the holes, especially when you have epoxy resin in there. And then to further prep them for making sure that the glue holds, we put them in our drill, take some 220, and take off the oxidized layer. And it also provides more surface area for the glue to stick to. So we take some acetone, we clean off all surfaces that are going to be glued, including the wood surfaces. Look how pretty that wood is. Alright, so there's hardener and resin, and this is a dye. Obviously it doesn't take much. Yes, you can. Oh, that's the epoxy that you smell. Yeah. So we put black dye in there because, well, this knife is forged to finish, and black is a beautiful color to be in between where there's things that are a thousandth or two off with regards to the handles. And it's also a good indicator to tell us when our epoxy is fully, completely mixed. Acetone works very well as a epoxy thinner. And the only place we need to worry about is right here at the front. So, like that. So we're going to take it over to the grinder. First we're going to grind down the pins. Then we're going to take off this little 16th, and then we'll come back over here and we'll draw some lines and stuff. And then we'll go back to the grinder and start with turning this into kind of a Coke bottle profile. And then after we do that, then we'll start rounding things off. So this is a simple knife vise that we make and sell to anyone who wants it. You don't have to take a class to buy one of these. We'll just make it for you and get it to you. Knife vises that are very much like this. Mind you, I'm going to be putting big knobs like this on these before I send them out to anyone. But knife vises very much like this go anywhere from $120 to $160, and we're still working on our pricing, trying to get it to where it's more reasonable. We've got our transition here that we measured earlier where your two fingers usually are. So we want to come straight up from there and make a guideline straight across there. We use a hacksaw blade, the back of it, as a flexible ruler. We also want this to be somewhere between 1/8 and 3/16 wide up here at the front. We'll lay our flexible straight edge across there. Do the same on this side. Now we've got our marks for the forward taper, because you definitely want this to be narrower up front. And then on the back, we're just going to use the contour of our wheels. That's so, this is the palm swell, so right in there, and then this area here flares out at the butt, really giving you a positive grip in there. And this narrows out here because these fingers are shorter than these fingers. So yeah, it'll fit really nicely in all sorts of different positions. So basically your main mission is to get rid of the machine marks, which with 220 grit doesn't take long. I've just taken care of the machine marks on that side. To use this, you loosen that, rotate it this way, tighten it down. Now you can use that here and work it around. So with the grain, but move it around like that. Sorry, I didn't like the way that transition was there. So I deviated from the pre-sharpening. Angle this until the edge contacts the stone, and then just work that back and forth. And you can see, if you zoom in, a wire edge. You'll see me push it up on like that. So that's the wire edge. Make sure that you get a wire edge. Since I did 20 strokes on this side, I'm going to do 20 strokes on this side. And make sure that I've got a wire edge all the way across. Oh, I'm missing it there at the tip. This is a DMT Duo Sharp. Duo Sharp because it's got one grit on this side, one grit on this side. Once I get the wire edge all the way across, then I just do a couple strokes on the next grit, and that knocks off the wire edge. And then I go to the final grit for what we would use for a hunting knife or whatever. Since this isn't going to be used to shave your face, we're not going super fine. So we want to go back and forth a couple of times with the medium. And then break out our strop. Our strop has, it's just leather on a board, and we put buffing compound on it. And with that, like butter. And yeah, I said we wouldn't be doing the shaving, but you could if you really, really wanted to. I'm just cleaning it off with acetone because, well, it's a good thing to do. Get rid of oils from my hands and that sort of stuff. And then we will break out this paste wax. This is Johnson's paste wax, and it's okay for going on the steel and the wood. And look how it reveals that grain structure. That beautiful bird's eye maple up under there. Be sure to get it on the butt, the end grain, so that it doesn't swell. And get it up here at the end so that doesn't swell. And then we can get it on the blade itself. And just like car wax, we put it on, we let it dry for a little while, and then we'll buff it off. So do not ever, ever put one of these, meaning a handmade knife, a high carbon handmade knife, in the dishwasher. It will rust instantly. Buff that off with the blade so that you don't have to. Now you have a beautiful knife.